no, I probably not as much as the house of Israel. I shouldn't say that. But there have been so many dispersions of this seed going out into all the earth and mingling. Okay, and this was all part of God's plan of redemption. Okay, so that when he was going to get the lost sheep, he could get the Gentiles. He could get. It's very deep. I'm not going to go all there, but this is back to the linear thoughts here. So it's really funny because if I was going to use a science today, it says either astronomy or nature they use. I mean, I would use the world of computers. Not that I have any understanding, but the little bit that I know in the is so like the story that's going on. So you can encrypt this in the understanding of a generation. I mean, we all understand how computers work, and what I'm saying is a virus got into the program. We are, I've said this before, we're like a mainframe, body, soul, and spirit computer. We have these 3 programs running simultaneously, which they can do from one mainframe. But a virus has gotten in there, and it's just entwined, and it's just gotten all a mess all over the 3 programs. So the thing is totally malfunctioning at this point. I mean, in how with these little X's and O's, you can create unbelievable. You can make the whole world, and they're doing with these 3D things now, 3D printers. I mean, I can't even imagine this stuff. But it's my concept: simplicity breeds complexity. You can tell this whole story with computer imagery. It's really interesting. But okay, so listen, I'm going to start with this verse in. This verse is in Judges 9:15. There's a story there. I'm not going to totally tell the whole story, but the language I want you to listen to. Listen to me, O men of Shechem, that God may listen to you. He's calling the men to account. This is a story in the Northern Kingdom. I can't really give the backdrop of this, except a couple key points that I want to pull out of it. Now, and he says, he's giving a parabolic. These guys know what he's talking. He's going to tell what's going on in a parabolic language that we've been talking about. He says, once the trees went forth to have a king and had a king over them. And they said to the olive tree, reign over us. But the olive tree said to them, shall I leave my fatness with which God and men are honored and go to wave over these trees? Verse 10, then the trees said to the fig tree, you come and reign over us. But the fig tree said to them, shall I leave my sweetness and good fruit and go and wave over these trees? Then the tree said to the vine, you come and reign over us. But the vine said, I will not leave my new wine, which cheers God and men, and go and wave over the trees. So we have here, again, all this, and I want you to make note of the 3 types of trees, which I believe is, okay, so the olive tree, the fig tree, and the vine. Because he said the olive tree, he called out to the olive tree and it said it would not leave. Then the fig tree said it would not leave, and the vine tree said it would not leave. And go and reign over these men. That is, because I think there's 3 things going on here. I think you have the house of Israel, the house of Judah, and I think you have the elect. And I think the olive represents the elect. Now, I'm just going to throw that out. That's a freebie tonight because I am going to unpack that a little bit more at some point. But I think the olive tree, the oil, which is somebody like a tzadik, a completely righteous person who is completely immersed and understanding all wisdom and all mysteries, who has steeped, like I said from Barnabas, steeped in Torah. It says, many are called, but few are chosen. You have to really study deep in Torah, and you have to love Yahweh with all your heart, mind, soul, and spirit, to forsake this world. There's a group of people on the planet who really are, they're chosen because they have done it, okay? So that's a category, and then the rest of house of Israel, house of Judah, and the mixed multitude. We're all kind of, but anyway, stick to the point here. Sorry. Now, but he talks about the bramble in the thorn bush. Now, let me go to this verse. This is in Judges. I said Judges 9. Let me find it. Because the words, the men of Shechem, he's talking and he says to them, the son of his maidservant, there's a word in here. All right, I'm going to have to find it. I'm going to have to go there. To Judges 9. I wasn't planning on it. Let's see if I can find Judges, huh? Judges 9. All right. So that God, one day they went out, the trees went out to anoint a king for themselves, they said. Then the trees said to the vine, come and be our king. And the vine, finally all the trees, all right, this is verse 14, which wasn't in here. Finally, all the trees said to the thorn bush, come and be our king. The thorn bush said to the trees, if you really want to anoint me king over you, come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, then let fire come out of the thorn bush and consume the cedars of Lebanon. I mean, that's full. I just want to say, remember how I shouldn't even go there. We won't even go to some of this. But the shade of a tree, is referenced in Nebuchadnezzar in his dream. But we won't go there. The tree that Nebuchadnezzar saw in his dream. And we have a mention of fire here. Okay, but we won't. We're going to stick with the thorn bush. The thorn bush comes from a word. It's atad, A-T-A-D. It's Strong's 329. It means it's a thorn bush, it's a bramble, it's a thorn, it's a weed, it's a tear, it's the same family. These are infiltrators in a garden. Anybody knows when you have a garden and you're weeding it, you are getting out the things in it. See, nature just doesn't lie, that are not real flowers or real plants. They're impersonators. That's why you get rid of them, okay? This whole thing. So a thorn bush, this is the point. Well, what is it, a thorn bush? A thorn bush is refers to a person of mixed blood, a hybrid, okay? It refers to a Canaanite, Abimelech. So this is the story of Abimelech, who was the son of Jerubbaal, who went to his mother. He was the son of one of the maidservants. He was of Canaanite bloodline who had been married, so let's say the Israelite had relations with a maidservant who was of non-Israeli of the bloodline, okay? That is a mixed, that's a hybrid, okay? That person is called a thorn. That is called a thorn bush. That's a briar. That's a tear. That's a weed, okay? In this understanding, because pre-Old Testament, we are keeping a pure bloodline through which the Messiah, the tree, the anointed tree, can come through, that can bend and not break, that can save, release them from, as I said in one of the apocalypses, from the forbidden tree, okay? So you have to understand what the prophet is talking about. He's not talking about literal thorn bushes or weeds. These are words that speak about real realities, okay, that are going on and that they're trying to protect. But when this brambles, thorn bushes, briars, tares, weeds, this word gets into the definition of a hybrid, which I said last week, gets into this concept of a goat and a sheep hybrid. It's where you get the goats on one seed and the sheep on the other. These are things that are not reproduced after their kind. Now this is, and you know what, when this understanding comes out, and this is why I know people are like squirming in their seats and they're like, oh my gosh. This is why this understanding, what Paul understood when he got the mysteries, when it was time for it to be revealed, the next phase, the 2 days, what was God's plan, okay? Why this little sect of Nazarenes, because now we understand really Jesus was an Essene, a Nazarene, that part of the group that they were the keepers of the secrets, the Dead Sea Scrolls. I mean, it's no coincidence that the earth has opened up, has coughed up their writings, because it's time to go back and to understand this thing that's been hijacked. what are the odds that this little tiny group of Essenes who were followers, of that way, that sect, that spin-off of Judaism, these people, should revolutionize the world within 40 years? I mean, there had to be something there. They had to have some kind of story, some kind of message. And this is the point. And especially within 7 years, by the time the temple was destroyed and it was done, and God said, look, I'm going into the next plan. We got plan B for the house of Israel, the lost sheep and the Gentiles. When the Gentiles, the pagan nations, began to understand it was being offered to them, it was like, this is unbelievable. They took it. They ran with it. Hook, line, and sinker. Now, unfortunately, it's been completely infiltrated and hijacked because we have all these tares and these thornbushes, who are hell-bent on not letting the truth come out. But too bad, it's coming out. So what I need to have people understand is you've got to understand what Yeshua did. You just don't. People need to understand in a whole new level what's at stake here. Because your body, your container is going to die. I'm telling you that. It's going down to dust. Okay? It's going to go. And there's a day coming when God is going to speak to that dust. Yahweh's going to, and it's going to tell it to arise. And he's going to bring the souls of the righteous, and they're going to be reunited with your body in an everlasting container. That this was available now, God's whole plan, not just to this little nation of Israel, okay, to the whole world. People wish people could grab a hold of this. So when we try to unpack these words and this understanding in what was going on then, how they were protecting a bloodline, and then how the door was blown wide open. But I'll tell you what, that door is only blown wide open for 2 days. It's just 2 more days. We're at the end of which is the 6th day, the 7th day. Only those who make the cut. You've got to get new genetics. You've got to get a new birth. That's what I'm saying. It makes perfect sense to go into the millennial reign. So anyways, back to the thorn bushes. So, okay, so let me just see if I got all of the things that I needed to say. Let me just say this is out of Isaiah, because when you understand and how thorn bushes, they're dry, they're brittle. That's the dry tree versus the green tree that has life in it. So what I was saying, the thorn will burn. It's okay. So in Isaiah 10:17, therefore the Lord, the God of hosts, will send a wasting disease among his stout warriors. And under his glory a fire will be kindled like a burning flame. And the light of Israel become a fire, and his Holy One a flame. And it will burn and devour his thorns and briars, or the thorns, in a single day. A disciple, all right? So this idea, surely, and this is Isaiah 47:14, surely they are like stubble. The fire will burn them up. They cannot even save themselves from the power of the flame. These are not coals for warmth. This is not a fire to sit by. Isaiah, thank you for saying that, because see, this is people, we talk about this fire that's all over the Bible and everything. This has nothing to do with natural fire that's in a campfire. Nothing at all to it. It is a realm, it's a dominion, it's a principality, it's a progenitor, it's a firstborn. I'm going to show it to you. We're going to get there. You just got to get your mind out of the carnal and into the spiritual. This fire is going to burn them up, and they cannot even save themselves from the power of this flame. Remember in the day of Pentecost when the Lord came, and they came as tongues of fire. Fire is something we got to unpack. We've got to get back to the biblical understanding of it. So now I want to go into another tag with this, okay? And I could go into a lot more verses, and I just wanted to unpack some of that quickly. The olive tree, the fig tree, the vine, the elect, the house of Judah, the house of Israel, and brambles, thorn bushes. These are Canaanites. This is serpent seed. This always refers to the seed of the serpent. All right, so I've made that clear. Now, let me go over here into this whole concept that's sort of tied in with this, because a lot of times you get this word fire, you get this concept of fire. He will burn them up. See, hell, this is another thing we ought to unpack, because hell isn't, it's very misrepresented. It's a realm, it's a domain, it's a dimension, okay? And it is in fire, but it's not like the fire, this is what I'm trying to, it's not the campfire. It's not the fire that burns your house down. It's something so different and greater. I mean, I know that they even know, and they know that, well, I won't even say that. Anyways, there's another thing here we got to unpack quick about the root of a lot of these briars and thorns. Because in the allegorical language, there's a lot of times you talk about a tree, like you got the trunk, you've got the branches, and you've got the roots. And they all are very specifically talking about the different, how do I say this? They are realms with different, okay, so we're body, we're soul, and we're spirit. Where these things function, okay? Our body is like in the trunk part. Our roots, our branches are our soul out there. It is made up, and this gets back into the whole concept of a lot of this stuff is stuff that's carnal, that's in matter. I mean, this is, oh gosh. If you look like you're a deer, in the headlights with all this information, I think how I feel sometimes I'm trying to piece all this crazy stuff together. But the earth, let me just give you this. The word semech, there's a Hebrew letter, semesh, mem. There's a lot of, okay, all right, what I'm trying to get to here, a lot of times there is the grapes of wrath. Okay, you ever heard that phrase? What that's talking about. Here, let's start with here, Deuteronomy 32. Always good to start with a scripture verse. Deuteronomy 32:31. Indeed, their rock is not like our rock. Even our enemies themselves judge this. For their vine is from the vine of Sodom, and from the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of poison, their clusters bitter. And I want to say this, the word bitter is the word wormwood. We got to get the Hebraic understanding. It has nothing to do with wormwood. I know people like the Chernobyl thing in Russia, and that's not what the biblical understanding. Wormwood is the word bitter, and I'm going to unpack this for you. Their wine is the venom of serpents and the deadly poison of cobras. The American King James Version says their wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps. Their wine is the venom of serpents and the deadly poison of cobras. Now, see, this is where it gets really tricky in the translations because they never really knew what was going on. But dragons and serpent are synonymous words. Okay, so a serpent is a dragon. But we're not talking about, like this thing out there, the Komodo dragon that breathes fire. We are talking about a species of an entity, okay? Now, their vine is from the vine of Sodom. So I told you the house of a vine, a low-spreading tree. Their tree, or their vine, is of Sodom. Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, those are code words. You always hear about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and I have unpacked this before, that the problem with Sodom is, again, they went back after the flood, this people group, of course a lot of people groups did, and they started intermingling with other species of created beings and creating hybrids again. And again, it was totally against what God, and become wicked. Because see, unfortunately down on the earth plane, the angels are in heaven, the good angels. What's down here is all the fallen stuff, okay? We live in a fallen world, people. So if you're whatever's down here and you're interfacing or intermingling with it, it's fallen, okay? It's not going to do you any good. So the vine of Sodom and the fields of Gomorrah, this is talking about species that are here. If you want to know who Cain went off and when he was sent off to the land of Nod, I mean, this is so deep, but it's unbelievable. But it explains everything. Their grapes of grace are poison, okay? Why the prophets always use this terminology, okay? Let's unpack this. The word poison of asp, the venom of snakes, see, snake and cobra. See, they didn't know which one to do. Is it a snake? It's a cobra. Is it an asp? Those are all types of snakes. Is it a dragon? Is it a serpent? That's all, okay? So that's what part of the confusion is, but we can just know. Remember on the third day, he planted grasses and herbs. Those are code words for species of living souls. This is when you get out your concordance and work every word and get back to it. That's what it's telling you, okay? That's why this poison is a combination of two words from Rosh as head, the beginning, their progenitor. You're just going to have to stick with me because I can't explain all this, is a combination of a bitter or a fallen or a bad or a virus or a fallen entity, okay? And which is poisonous, okay? So the venom, the gall, it's an idiom. It means wormwood, something bitter. So the vine of Sodom comes from a word that is poison. So this way it's poison. You mix and mingle. That's what happened with Eve and the serpent. Man, that was just pure poison. It has done nothing good for the human race, okay? No good came out of that, all right? We have had a problem from the get-go, all right? And the field, the land of Gomorrah. Now, this is where so what I want you to see in the word bitter, which is the word for the poison. So you have to poison, bitter, poisonous, a bitter poisonous herb. That's what its idiom is wormwood. Okay, and I had other notes to unpack wormwood even more. It is the gall of serpents. I mean, you can't get away from it. It has nothing to do with, oh my gosh, our enemy is just laughing at us. It's something bitter, okay? When there's something bitter in your mouth, you spit it out, okay? So I can't get into, so I want you to understand that. Now, a root that bears gall is a poisonous and a bitter herb. So this is another way of them talking about a code word of encrypting it as a serpent seed, okay? That cannot get into the pure bloodline. The bloodline that has to be preserved, they were told, that's what Judah was told, they had the scepter, they had to preserve a bloodline pure, for which the Messiah to come through, okay? Wormwood is a simile of a bitter, and it means it's another word, somebody is hybrid. I remember goat and sheep, hybrid. That's why he's always saying they just track. These words keep playing over each other. You have the sheep on one side and the goats on the other. So wormwood is a simile or an idiom for the word bitter, which goes back to the word gall, which goes back to poisonous herb, okay? Or a weed. Okay, a tear, a thornbush. This is what the biblical Hebraic understanding is. In Proverbs 5:4, we can get a little clue of this, and it is the result of relations with strange women. So that was the story in Judges with Abimelech being the son of an unholy relationship with a concubine, with a slave woman. You know, this was not his married wife. This was not a sanctioned union. This is what's always going on. Then I explain the difference between adultery and fornication and what they really mean in their broadest terminology relating to the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. In Proverbs 5:4, it says the adulterous woman, okay, she is bitter as wormwood. Her feet go down to death. See, in a lot of this, now I'm going to say this too, because then the analogy, this is where the Jews, when I can just see Jesus now, when they pulled the adulterous woman out and just threw in front of her and said, oh, look at her, this woman called an adultery. What are you going to do? Are we going to stone her? Oh my gosh. No wonder he's probably collecting himself going, okay, God, I'm going to be patient. I'm not going to just, I can't rail at these people yet. I gotta do my tree thing. Oh my gosh. The woman, okay, see, we have to unpack this. Woman has nothing to do with my race of like women. We're talking about women, okay? The adulterous woman, yes, can go back to Eve, to the concept, but she was beguiled. But it goes up even higher. There's a higher understanding of this, which I can't even get into. But I have to tell you this, people, the world has not done any good service, and this is the point where out in the desert, it's a wilderness out there, by us people who claim to be children of Yahweh, who claim to be people who have the mind of Christ, that we cannot explain this to people. And so all these absolutely crazy explanations come forward that don't do any, that actually do more harm than good. Okay? And it's like Jesus says, it's frustrating because we haven't loved truth. This was part of it. You've got to love the truth more than anything. So anyways, I wanted to do a little bit of the vine of Sodom, the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes, which is their fruit, which I told you, fruit. You have a seed planted. It produces a fruit, which is another way. It produces an offspring. It produces something you can see. A person. Boom, a baby pops out. Oh my God, where did that come from, right? So, the vine of Sodom, the fields of Gomorrah, their grapes are poisonous cluster, their seed line, their offspring, their wine. This is the venom, the gall, the bitterness of serpents and cobras. These are all words. And the problem is all the translations, you got to weed through all these words, are saying this. So I hope that kind of clears things up, because we have a lot of work to do at the end of the age, because again, it comes down to this word. It means have the mark of the beast, because if you have the mark of the beast, when the roll is called up yonder, on the day of judgment, there is a day, boom, you cannot inherit eternal life. So what I'm trying to tell you, the mark of the beast, if you still have programs running in you in which Satan owns you, you need to cry out to them on the mercy and compassion of God, through Yahushua HaMashiach, that he will save you, own you, rescue you, clean you up, give you new, and get you going on to the next leg of this thing, which is the millennial reign. So on that note, I have to say good night, God bless, and thank you for listening. In Yeshua's name.